Yo, good evening. Good evening, everybody in Nostalgia Land. This is Chance Bartels. This is the Nostalgic Podblast. I have a very special guest we're going to start interviewing in just a moment. He's a very talented artist, but I've got to play our theme. It's Podblast time! Yes, it's Podblast time. Again, I'm your host, Chance Bartels. We have a very special guest on the line. This is Mr. Howell Golson. Go to howellgolson.com and look at his artwork. He's a professional artist. He's worked with the Paul Newman Foundation with their product line. We'll talk about that. He's worked with, he's affiliated with Adult Swim on some projects, Cartoon Network's Adult Swim, and a lot of other stuff. How are you, Howell?
Hey, man. I'm doing great. How you doing?
I'm doing well, I'm really happy that you found time to be on the show, the Nostalgic Podblast, and we're also not only going to talk about your art career, but talk about a brand new game based on Friday the 13th that reveals the true origin of Mrs. Voorheeves, Jason's mom.
Yep. Yeah, sure does.
Cool. Well, I want to ask you some questions. Of course, I just mentioned your website. If you're listening on fistfulofradio.com or any of the audio-only platforms, I would encourage you to go to the YouTube channel, The Nostalgic Podblast, or the Facebook group, The Nostalgic Podblast, and especially go to Howell's website. Howell Golson, that's spelled H-O-W, HOWELLGOLSON.com, and check out his artwork. But Howell, I got to ask you, are you a natural-born talented artist, or did you have to go to school and learn your craft, or a little bit of both?
Yeah, a little bit of both. I think, I came out drawing when I was a child, so, it came naturally, absolutely. But yeah, I got a whole lot better going to school, absolutely. There's a lot to learn, so it's a lifelong process.
Are you left-handed or right-handed?
Oh, right-handed, definitely. I can't do anything with my left hand. Nothing.
I'm left-handed, and I tried to do pen and ink. It's funny. I try to do different things, but I like have a quarter of the talent of people like you. I've tried different things. I've tried acting. I've tried pen and ink. It's just I need to stick to one thing, and I'm getting up there. It's about damn time I found my place and stuck to it.
yeah, man. You're a pretty good stand-up comic.
Oh, thanks. I don't know about that, but thanks, man. Now, full disclosure, you are the younger brother of a high school friend of mine I'm still friends with, Hunter Golson. Right. And that's how I know you. And I want to mention the cool animation reel you did. It was kind of in the vein, in my opinion, of Mike Judge. Back in the 90s, it was on 16mm film, and I saw it. You let me, I borrowed it for a while. And what was that about? What was that little film about? That was cool.
I'm trying to remember. There was a short one about two, I guess they were outlaws, like they were, drawing on each other, and they shot each other. I'm trying to remember. And it was a project about laundry. It was a school project. It was supposed to be about laundry, and they shot each other, and then like a bum comes up and takes their clothes and washes them and wears them. I don't know. Do you remember that?
I watched it. It was hilarious, man. Like I said, it was kind of like a early Mike Judge project. It was great.
I don't know where that is. Maybe Hunter has a copy of it. I don't know.
Maybe your parents have it in storage. It needs to be converted digitally before anything happens to that film. So,
absolutely.
Where did you go to art school, or where did you study art?
I went to Rhode Island School of Design up in Providence, Rhode Island, and it's a great school. I'm really, really proud to have gone there. Learned a whole lot. Had some really great teachers up there. We did animation, obviously, but I went for illustration. It was an illustration program, and that's what I do now. I illustrate commercially for lots of national companies. I do mostly packaging, lots of food and liquor and beer, lots of beer now, beer labels, stuff like that.
That's really cool, man. For like independent like craft houses and things and breweries or big names.
Some of them are big names. I did one for New Belgium last year, and I do Wicked Weed. I guess they're national now, but I've done most of their stuff, and liquor. I mean, some famous brands, a lot of not so famous brands, but bread and butter. So. I mean, if you go to the grocery store and walk through the aisles, sometimes it's fun for me to see some stuff that I forgot that I did, like cheese and like tea, lots of tea, beers, and just walking through the aisles, and sometimes they'll just pop up and I'll be like, I remember that.
That's so. Do you get residuals like an actor would, or do you get paid? Is it one and done in terms of your payment?
Well, what happens is you get paid, and then you also get paid for licensing. So they'll just buy out all the rights to use it. So they get you to draw it. They pay you to draw it, and then they give you money to use it. So usually they'll give you money and say, okay, I just want to buy all the rights to it, and it's just mine. So that's how it works. You don't get any residuals on like music or movies or anything like that. But usually just buy the rights out.
Now, how did you get hooked up with the Paul Newman Foundation of their charitable product line?
Gosh, man, I can't even think that far back. That was, wow. That was, I can't even, I'm trying to think. Wow, you put me on the spot. I'm trying to remember how that happened.
Well, that's okay.
It might have been through an agency that I was working with. I work with like design agencies and like ad agencies. It was probably one of those.
Very
But
cool.
honestly, I don't remember particularly.
Now, again, I encourage people to go to howellgolson.com and you can see some highlights of this very talented artist who's on the show with us right now. Also, you've worked with the Adult Swim people. You did a calendar for them and some other things. What have you done with the Cartoon Network and Adult Swim specifically?
Well, mostly you're right. I did a calendar for them a couple times, and then I did like the DVD covers for Squidbillies. I did Squidbillies. Was it Volume 5? And like a few other things here and there. I did something for Black Jesus. I don't know if you remember that show.
Yep.
So just a few things. They call me every once in a while and get me to do something weird. So I had to design one of those votive candles for Black Jesus. You know those things?
Mm-hmm.
Like the cylinder candles that you see, like Mexicans have them. Anyway, they had one. They wanted to print Black Jesus on it. It was kind of a weird thing to do, but I did it.
So getting back to Paul Newman, now you work with the wine labels. Did you design the wine labels for them, or did you work with the salad dressings and the frozen pizza, or was it just the wine, or what?
It was just the wine. Yeah, we did the line. And now I remember the design agency now. They designed it and had me draw his face and his hats. They wanted to put like his famous hats, like one of his famous hats on every bottle, like Butch Cassidy's hat, and then like what was it, Great Gatsby, or what? I forget what. Gosh, I don't remember what movies he was in. Anyways, it was just a line and each wine had a different hat, so I had to draw those things.
Well, Paul Newman was in The Life and Times of Judge Roy Bean. That's one of Al Hardy's favorite movies, going back to 1972. Anyway, it could have been that. Could have been Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid. But so that's cool, man. Yeah. So because I was holding up, you probably couldn't see this, but I was holding up like the pizza box, which I guess you had nothing to do with, for the Newman's own thin and crispy pizza and the salad dressing that I love. And anyway, but that's cool. You're affiliated with that charitable organization. 100% of their profits go to charity.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Well, let's shift gears a second, and then we'll get back to. Well, I want to ask you, when did you know that you wanted to make a living in art? I must ask that before we move on to Friday the 13th.
Interesting. I mean, I think I just figured out at some point that was what I did best, and and so I was like, well, this is the easiest path in life. At this point, it's probably when I first started going to college, and I realized that, this is what I do best. So, probably just go with that.
Awesome. Now, do you have any inspirations, or who or what inspired you, or still inspires you in terms of your craft?
Gosh.
If you need to think on that, I'm not trying to put you on the spot.
I can say a few things straight up. Like the French comic artists of the 60s and 70s, like Jean Giraud, Mobius, those guys, they really drew really, really well. And just an endless source of inspiration for me, still to this day.
Excellent. Well, let's shift gears here. Hunter tells me that you and he have been interactively playing this new Friday the 13th video game on PlayStation 4. And he told me you discovered some Easter eggs that actually reveal the true origin of why Mrs. Voorheeves, Jason's mom, was so twisted.
Yeah, no, for real. The game is it's actually not brand new. It's a few years old, but it's still really super fun. And as I was telling you earlier, most games that are like licensed from movies, they're sort of a cash grab. They don't really care too much about the game too much, and these guys seem to have really enjoyed making it and are really big fans of the franchise. And so it kind of feels like canon to me, like to play this. And you find these little tapes, these cassette tapes throughout the game, and I finally just recently got every one of the tapes, and they're actually the interrogation of Jason's mom after he drowns, and it's just really well written, and like it's really cool. You absolutely learn some pretty interesting things about her.
Well, is it something that pops up on the screen you read, or is it audio? Is it reenacted with?
It's audio. It's audio. It's written and acted, and so it's pretty cool. It feels like canon. Like it really feels like it's real. Like that they had a mandate to do that. It's pretty interesting.
And what Hunter told me was that it's revealed that actually Mrs. Voorheeves, the reason she's such a psycho and so attached to her son is that her husband was an alcoholic that beat her savagely and left her or cheated on her. I mean, what's that?
Yeah, he beat Jason. He beat Jason too. That's why she had to murder him.
Oh, sure. So she murdered the husband, the father.
She murdered him. Yeah, and Jason's dad is actually just some random person. She didn't say who he was. She didn't know his name, and he raped her basically.
Jesus.
And yeah, but the actor who plays her in this is actually pretty good. The acting's good, and the writing's great. It feels like radio drama.
Oh, I love that.
Pretty cool.
See, I'm not really into the new games. I'm still stuck on pinball, and my God, on camera I have an old Atari 5200 going, for goodness sakes. But I've got to get with the times, man. Is this game called Camp Blood? What?
No, it's called Friday the 13th, the game.
Because I've heard of the game Camp Blood. Okay, see, it's called Research Chance. I should have done a little homework before I interviewed you.
Incidentally, if you type in Pamela Voorhees tapes or whatever on YouTube, you can go listen to them.
That's cool. And you said her first name. That was one of my trivia questions I was going to talk about. Is most people don't know her first name or character's first name. You just said it, Pamela Voorhees.
Yep.
And Betsy Palmer played her. After we conclude the interview, I'm going to play some clips of her from the classic original Friday the 13th from way back in 1980. But that actress, she didn't expect Friday the 13th to be seen by anyone. She just wanted a paycheck, and it really became the thing she's best known for.
Yeah. No, it's classic now.
What? Well,
I'm
go
not
ahead.
sure what she's even done other than that.
Well, she was actually a beauty queen in the 50s. She was a panelist on a game show called I've Got a Secret, and she was a Broadway actress. She was in South Pacific. Wow. See, I did research and do homework on her, and on Friday the 13th. I know Friday the 13th like, the back of my hand. I know it because I love those movies, especially the first 5 or so. and I even like Jason Takes Manhattan. Anyway, and when he fought
Yeah, I
Freddy,
like them
that was
all.
cool. You know, when they combined Nightmare on Elm Street with Friday the 13th. But now I didn't care for the 2009 reboot Friday the 13th. I thought it sucked. That's
Yeah,
just me.
no way. Yeah, I didn't like that. Like the first, 10, I guess, 10 or 11. But yeah, that one was no good. Any of the reboots are pretty awful.
And it wasn't even that gory. You know, like I was expecting classic slasher horror effects, like Tom Savini effects, like he did in the first film. Throat slashed, axes in the
Yeah,
face. I mean,
yeah, none
beheadings.
of that.
Didn't have any of that.
Very forgettable.
Well, what now? You're a family man. You have some adorable kids and a loving wife. And are your kids excited about Halloween? And have they ever seen the Friday the 13th movies? Or are they too young for that?
Yeah, no, they've seen them all. No, they're not too young. Well, some people would think they're too young, but yeah, they've seen them all. Yeah,
Cool.
they love it. They like to watch me play the game too.
What's your favorite Friday the 13th movie?
Oh man, what is it? I think classically, I would say that Part Two is the best movie. I think it took everything that the first movie was trying to be, and it made good on it. I think, and plus you had Jason killing in it.
The potato sack, Jason, before the hockey mask.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that potato sack. He wasn't very big though. He was a different actor, right? It wasn't
Yes.
Kane Hodder. It was somebody else.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, because he wasn't large at all, and he was like sort of just like some creepy guy. But later, the third movie, he became really big. Yeah, he was huge and scary.
Oh yeah. That's my favorite Jason's, the one from Part 3 when he first dons the hockey mask.
Yeah.
And he only did one movie.
Great.
Michael Booker. Wait, let me make sure I got his name right. I get confused with Rooker, who shot me in Walking Dead. No, it's Booker. That's his name. He played Jason in Part 3 in 3D.
Oh,
Yeah.
no way. That wasn't Kane Hodder then, huh? When
Nope.
did he start?
Well, I don't want to say. I'll let one of the viewers answer that question, because knowing me, I'll get it wrong when I'm on the spot. But hang on,
Yeah.
Booker, Friday the 13th, Part 3. I'm gonna make sure I got his name right. Hang on, Part 3D. Richard Brooker, Brooker. See, I screwed up. And he's a British actor and stuntman. And he was my favorite Jason.
He was a big boy too.
Oh yeah.
He was big in that movie.
And I like the sound effects. Like, do you remember when he got the axe in the head towards the end of the movie, and he's been hung by a noose, and I like the sounds he would make, like the heroine stuck an axe in his head. He goes, ugh, and she threw that knife and hit him in the leg, and he goes, ugh. I don't know if that was.
Picture it in my head.
I don't know if that was him making those sounds. Again, I should have done my homework, but I just like the sounds that he made. But yeah, he looked completely different than Jason in Part 2, who was unmasked, and he like had this beard and half a face, like half of his face is gnawed away by the water and the creatures in the lake and the leeches and stuff. Hey, but I was gonna say, one thing that occurred to me, I understand that in the video game, like, Jason can swim. I thought the whole point of him drowning was he couldn't swim.
He's really, really good at it. You don't want to get in the water because he's alerted to it, like, right away for some reason. And he can swim really fast and drown you. Yeah, I just stay away from the water usually. But I like to fix the boat and drive the boat away. And Hunter and I did that one time. We fixed the boat and we drove away. It was really triumphant.
I'm playing that game. I'm going to go to Hunter's house and play that. And I heard there's a new Chainsaw Massacre game coming out. There's a lot of hype about that one, too.
Yeah, next year, early next year, I think first quarter, it's going to come out.
Cool. Quick question. Do you have Disney Plus? Do you stream anything on Disney Plus?
Yes, I have it, yeah.
Did you catch Werewolf by Night, the special movie? It's 55 minutes long.
I just was made aware of it. I haven't watched it yet. No. Is it good?
It's really good, and it's in black and white. I won't give anything away. I'm going to discuss it later. Tom Williams, our co-host, Basil Chesterman, as he's known, is maybe going to call in, and he watched it Friday night when I did, separate places, and we're going to talk about it and about the origin. I have some of the comic books I'm going to show on camera and talk about the origin of the character. And they introduced a character who's Marvel's answer to Swamp Thing in that movie. I guess that's kind of a spoiler, but he's in it. The Man-Thing, if you know that character from the Marvel comic books.
Yeah, I do. And also, was it Moon Knight, his first appearance in Werewolf by Night?
Correct, issue 32. I'm going to hold that up for the camera. It's a very valuable comic these days. It's selling for thousands of bucks. Now, I didn't care for the Moon Knight streaming show that much. It was kind of hit or miss for me. Did you see it?
Yeah, I didn't particularly like it. It was too weird.
Yeah, it was too weird. Yeah, and the background is Werewolf by Night, issue 32 you just referenced. First appearance of Moon Knight. Yeah. But, well, cool, man. Is there anything else that you want to talk about or mention about the video game? Because I don't want to keep you too long.
Oh, just that you should definitely go over to Hunter's and play. I can play with him. And you should check it out, man. It's got a like you said, you like the first 5 movies.
Yes.
Well, they have a map for each of the first 5 movies, and it's really like accurate, and it's like very very much like the movies. Like, they paid a lot of attention, put a lot of work into it. It's very cool. You'd like it.
Camp Crystal Lake, where the massacres happen. But yet, really, I said the first 5, but the first 3 are probably my ultimate favorites. Although it was weird how at the end of the 3rd movie, how Mrs. Voorheeves came out of the water and she had her head on. Her head was on her torso. Of course, that was a hallucination, I guess, by Chris, the survivor.
There was a lot of hallucinations here and there.
That's awesome, man. And are there survivors? Are there like characters in the game that are survivors? Like each movie had a survivor. But sometimes they get killed at the beginning of the next movie.
It's interesting that some of the characters are straight from the movies, and some of them are sort of, kind of made up. I think maybe they didn't have the licensing for the likenesses of the actors or something, or I don't know what it is, but yeah. So in the game, you're like, there's 7 counselors, and then obviously Jason. So you choose to be one of the counselors or to be Jason, going around trying to kill everybody.
I wouldn't want to be a counselor. They all get whacked. I'd want to be Jason. I want to be the killer.
Well, no. I mean, you can actually kill him. Like, you can get to his shack in the woods and take the sweater from his mother's sweater and try to hypnotize him by making him think that you're his mother. And then Tommy Jarvis, like older Tommy Jarvis from Part 6 is in it. And he can actually knock his mask off and kill him. But it's rare. It doesn't happen very often. So you can do that, or you can, fix the car and drive it away, or call the cops.
If it doesn't run out of gas, right?
Well, no, gas is not an issue, actually. You got to put gas in it, but you don't run out. Yeah.
My favorite survivor was probably... Oh, I'm sorry. I keep interrupting you. Forgive me. Go ahead.
No, that's fine. You got to find the keys and put the battery in, and you got to fix stuff, and then you got to, it's cool. You can, put the fix the phone, call Tommy Jarvis with the CB radio. There's lots to do. It's fun.
My favorite survivor was probably Ginny, spelled Ginny, in Part 2. And she was the one that first tricked Jason into thinking that she was his mother.
Right.
And then they brought back Betsy Palmer for that little part in Part 2 in the hallucination, or from his point of view, Jason's point of view. Jason, mother is talking to you, that whole weird shit. Well, man, I really appreciate you being on my little Podblast show, and
man.
hope to see you again soon. I know you guys live in the Carolinas, right?
Yeah, we live up near Asheville.
Nice. Nice. Well, I appreciate your time very much. And, hey, can you tell me, I guess I'll look it up. I wonder if the Mets are still losing. As we're live, the Mets are looking like they might get knocked out of the playoffs in the wild card against the Padres, but I'll just look it up myself. But you are so talented. Again, HowellGolson.com. Check out his work. He's a very accomplished professional artist, super talented, and a great guy. And thanks again, Howell, for being on the show.
Thanks, brother. Yeah, absolutely.
All right. I'll be playing with you on that Friday the 13th game with Hunter next month.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
All right. Happy Halloween season, brother.
Yeah, man. Later on.
Bye-bye. Howell Golson, ladies and gentlemen, is a really, really cool guy. And I got to convert that reel for him. If he can find that film footage, it's really funny and cool animation he did back in the 90s for his student project. So let's continue on here. We got a lot of topics. Let's to talk a little bit about Friday the 13th. Now, I know horror movies, especially slasher movies, are not everyone's cup of tea. This is a nostalgia show. I won't spend too much time with this, but let's just take a little trip down memory lane. I had pulled a couple of clips, and then I want to talk about Betsy Palmer, who played Mrs. Voorheeves, and her story. Won't go too long with that. And then we'll get to Werewolf by Night. And I'll drop what I'm doing if Tom does call in to talk about that at his leisure. But let's just listen to a little bit of the 1980 trailer to Friday the 13th while I regroup here.
Hello? Who's that? Oh, hi. What are you doing out in this mess?
1, 2. You're all doomed.
Crazy Ralph.
3.
We weren't doing anything. We were just messing up.
4.
Yeah, right.
5. 6.
Must be my imagination.
There's the axe in the face scene. Yeah.
7.
Can I help you? Hello?
8. 9. 10.
Kevin Bacon, arrow through the neck.
12. Friday, the 13th. You may only see it once, but that will be enough. Friday, the 13th.
Yeah, so that's the original preview trailer, and the original film was released by Paramount Pictures on Friday, May 9th, 1980. And, you know, I watch older movies before Friday the 13th, and I hear people say that 13 is their lucky number, and I didn't realize that that was actually considered a lucky number. But me being a Gen Xer, and I know for a lot of you out there that are also Gen Xers, I've never thought of 13 as a lucky number, probably because of those movies. They just hit at the right time when we were growing up. And I love that music by Harry Mandrafini. The music is actually, I think, it makes the movie. It makes the tear, along with Tom Savini's excellent gore effects. And he'd worked on Dawn of the Dead back in 1977. George Romero's Dawn of the Dead. That's my favorite of the Night of the Living Dead, Day of the Dead trilogy. Dawn of the Dead, the middle movie in the shopping mall, shot in Pennsylvania. Just love that. That's one of my favorite horror movies. But we're going to talk about some other stuff. It's Halloween season, so yes, we're on a little bit of a terror bend here tonight. But just want to mention also that Friday the 13th was a low-budget movie, and Kevin Bacon, it was one of his first movies. A lot of people make a mistake and say, oh, it was Kevin Bacon's first movie, Friday the 13th. No, it wasn't. That would be Animal House. He was in Animal House. But the first film cost only $555,000 to produce. Now, for Paramount Pictures, that's very low budget. Yes, I guess that's a lot of money. But for movies, even back then, that's a low-budget movie. But get this, even though it cost $555,000 to produce, it earned a whopping $60 million in movie ticket sales. Actually, 59.8. million. Plus, think about all the residuals in home video, Blu-ray, 4K, DVD, merchandising, the video games we just talked about, and everything else. It was a phenomenon. And but Betsy Palmer, like I was mentioning to our special guest, HowellGolson.com, she actually got her first acting job back in 1951. Now, she was 53 years old when she acted in Friday the 13th, shot in 1979, released in 1980. So, but she looked older than that. Didn't she look older than 53 to you? I don't know. I think people take care of themselves better these days. They drink more water. They eat less fried food and and less carbs and all that crap. And trans fat, which I like. I like trans fat. I like the old French fries and stuff. Anyway, I digress. But she, to me, looked older than 53 years old in the first Friday the 13th. But again, like I mentioned to Howell, she was really a beauty queen. She was gorgeous when she was younger. And she was a regular supporting movie and Broadway actress and television guest star. And as I mentioned, she was a regular panelist on the game show I've Got a Secret, which is wildly popular. Very classy show, I've Got a Secret. And but her first acting job in 1951 was when she joined the cast of the 15-minute weekday television soap opera titled Miss Susan, which was produced in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And all actors traveled each day, get this, from New York City to Philadelphia by train. And she was discovered for this role by Norman Lessing while attending a party at the apartment of actor Frank Sutton. Does that name sound familiar to you? Frank Sutton, best known as Sergeant Carter. I can't hear you! In Gomer Pyle, USMC. And he did a lot of other things, too. He actually had a variety show towards the end of Gomer Pyle and after Gomer Pyle. Didn't last long, but he had a variety show. And he passed away rather young. I think he was in his 50s when he passed away, Frank Sutton. But how about that? Betsy Palmer was at Sergeant Carter's home, or his apartment, and Frank Sutton was married at that time to Toby Igler, the sister of Betsy Palmer's roommate named Sasha Igler. And she had been in Manhattan for less than 1 week when she was discovered, Betsy Palmer. And like I mentioned to Howell, her stage work included a nice run of South Pacific, and she played Nellie Forbush. But of course, flash forward to 1979, she acted in what would be the role of her lifetime, playing Jason Voorheeves' mother. And I was going to ask you guys, do you know what her first name is? But Howell knew it right out of the gate. Pamela Voorheeves, in the slasher film Friday the 13th, released Friday, May 9th, 1980. And then she reprised the role in part 2 in that flashback hallucination scene, in which the survivor Ginny, G-I-N-N-Y, played by Amy Steele, tricked Jason into thinking that she was his mother when she put on that nasty old bloody sweater. Anyway, but Betsy Palmer was born on Monday, November 1st, 1926, in East Chicago, Indiana. And she died on Friday. On a Friday. How about that? Sadly, on a Friday, on May 29th, 2015, in Danbury, Connecticut. Now, as you heard Howell mention, I think this is cool, the backstory. It doesn't forgive her character being a psychotic, murdering butcherer who totally mutilated people, axes in the head, slit throats. Even if you notice, one of the bodies in the first Friday the 13th, you didn't see him get killed, but he had an arrow in the crotch. He was sort of stuck, impaled to a door on the side of a barn. And so she had some real anger management issues, to say the least, the character of Pamela Voorhees. But it's revealed in this game with this great writing, except for the fact that Jason's a great swimmer, that Pamela was beaten savagely. And I didn't know she was raped, as he said. Her character was raped, and he was a random alcoholic, and she wound up, thankfully, getting even and killing his ass, according to Howell. I've got to play this game. I think that's an interesting backstory. And I can't wait to play that game. So I guess he said it's been out a few years. I'm out of the loop when it comes to PlayStation 4. Let's see. And remember that scene. So you Rage. I'm going to play another quick clip, and then we'll move on to Werewolf by Night. This is a clip from the original Friday the 13th, where you hear the reveal that this lady is actually the killer. Now, you've probably seen it at least 10 times, but I just think the acting by Betsy Palmer was really good in this. Let me just play a little bit of just a couple quick scenes here. Betsy Palmer.
Oh, my Lord. So young. So pretty.
She's looking down at a body that went through that she threw through a window. You didn't see this character get killed.
There.
She...
Oh, God, this place. Steve should never have opened this place again. There's been too much trouble here. Did you know that a young boy drowned the year before those two others were killed? The counselors weren't paying any attention.
Look what you
they
did
were
to him.
making love.
Look
while
what
that
you
young boy
did
drowned.
to him!
His name was Jason. I was working the day that it happened, preparing meals. Here, I was the cook. Jason should have been watched every minute.
So she's starting to crack slip.
He wasn't a very good swimmer.
See? Yet in the video game, he's an expert swimmer.
We can go now, dear.
I think we should wait for Mr. Christie.
Oh, that's not necessary.
I don't understand.
I am Jason. I am. You see, Jason was my son, and today is his birthday.
Where's Mr. Christie?
Oh, I couldn't let them open this place again.
Could I?
Could I? Not after what happened. Oh, my sweet, innocent Jason.
Now she's about to pull out a butcher knife that
My
she
only
slit
child.
this girl's throat with earlier in the film.
Jason.
Tom Savini effect.
You let him drown. You never paid any attention.
I love this part.
What you did to him. Look what you did to him.
So I love that scene.
Download the
She come-
Domino's.
Oh, got a freaking ad there. And then let's see. One other quick clip. This is only a minute long, folks. I know visual is better, but you've seen it at least a dozen times, so you know these scenes. But you could hear like the rage in her voice, and I love that acting by Betsy Palmer there. Look what you did to him! It's good acting. And it explains, this video game has great characterization that explains why she's such a friggin' maniac. But that's what's so cool about these horror movies, because everybody, I don't care how godly you are, everyone has been wronged, and everyone has fantasized about getting revenge against someone that did you wrong. I'm not saying you wanted to murder them, but in the horror movies, you can sort of have a fantasy of getting even with somebody, even if it means killing them. In fantasy, not in reality. But let's listen to another quick scene from the first Friday the 13th with the great Betsy Palmer and Alice, the first survivor, who was actually killed by Jason in the beginning of the second film, Friday the 13th, Part 2, Howell's favorite. But let's listen.
Come, dear. It'll be easier for you than it was for Jason.
She's nuts. I just love that music. Now, right here, Mrs. Voorheeves is beating the crap out of Alice, like, psh, psh, just bashing her savagely. I guess doing what was done to her by that son of a bitch husband or father of Jason, I should say. Let's listen. This clip's almost over with. Bam! Now she knocked the shit out of her. Excuse my French. Alice just knocked the crap out of Mrs. Voorhees. Remember that? And smacks her, hits her so hard, blood's coming out of her ears. I love that. But, I mean, we've all thought about, when somebody did something really bad to you, you thought about how you just wish you could kill them and get away with it sometimes. You know what I'm saying? So that's the cool thing about horror movies. They just really touch on your fears as well as help you get a lot of stuff out of your system. So I'm going to play that game. Now let's talk a little bit, before we go to Werewolf by Night, I must remind you about a great magazine, Remind Magazine. And I want to show you the latest edition. It should be on camera. If you're listening on fistfulofradio.com, I would encourage you to go to the YouTube channel, The Nostalgic, with a C, Podblast, or the Facebook group, The Nostalgic Podblast. And you will see all these wonderful collectibles I'm about to share with you. Comic books, collectibles, including the latest edition of Remind Magazine. As we're live, it's October 2022. And they did, this is a very family-friendly publication. It's a lot of fun. And they did a feature on the Munsters, the classic Munsters. And last time on the show, when the Nostalgic Trio was together, Basil Chesterman, Tom Williams, Al Hardy, and I, we watched at the Fabulous Studio East Rob Zombie's Munsters. And I liked it. I know there's a lot of hate for it out there, but I liked it. And I liked that, well, I don't want to rehash what I said last time, but in case you didn't hear it, just basically I liked that the casting in it, I thought that, well, it doesn't matter. We're talking about Remind Magazine. Just if you have Netflix, it's worth a look visually. I love the colors. It's very bright. And it's in the vein of the old show. I mean, if you're expecting gore, look elsewhere. Watch Friday the 13th, some of the original Friday the 13th movies. But, gee, I hope that's on camera. I can't see my monitor. But Remind Magazine has an incredible deal. Only $12 a year, not $12 a month, $12 an entire year. And for every month of the year, that's a full 12 issues. Some publications would publish 10 a year and they'd skip a month here. No, Remind gives you a lot of joy in your mailbox each and every month. There's games, there's articles, interviews with the stars, a lot of research, a lot of homework, and it's very well written, and it's written on an adult level. So I would encourage you to subscribe while they have this limited time offer. It'd be a great gift for the holiday season. The holidays are upon us. Only $12 for the entire year. And the great thing is, whoever you give this to will think you spent a lot more money than just $12. And then they can thank you and think of you all year long, every month. What do you get in the mail these days? Bills, right? As you're an adult. When you're a kid, you could subscribe to magazines. Well, Gen Xers, pre-internet, all we had were magazines, right? I liked it. It's a throwback to print. And let's see. I want to tell you how you can subscribe. Just go to Remind Magazine's Facebook group, and they usually have a Facebook page. I think it's a page. And they have a link right there. And normally on the newsstands, it's a lot more than just $1 an issue. My gosh, $1 an issue. What a bargain. They have a really nice person that you can talk with when you order old school on the phone. Grab a pencil or a pen. The phone number is 855-773-6463. Again, 855-773-6463. Or just go to remindmagazine.com, and they accept all forms of online payment, Visa, MasterCard, American Express, or Discover. You can get your points, but it's only $12. So an order specialist will assist you in processing your Remind Magazine subscription. So good stuff. Now, I got some comic history to go over, but, I need to correct something. Correction Corner! Last week with the fellas, I had a brand new game that I unveiled called Brand or Brand X. And I picked 5 products to quiz the fellas that are similar in nature, like Coke and Pepsi, Crackle Candy Bar, and Nestle's Crunch Candy Bar, Dr. Pepper, Mr. Pibb. The object of the game is you tell me which came first. And so I got so flustered, I actually misread my handwritten notes like a dummy, and I knew this in my head. I said that Pepsi came before Coca-Cola. That's incorrect. And most people know that, and actually I knew that in my head. I must have lost my mind temporarily. Pepsi was not before Coca-Cola. But did you know, I think Dr. Pepper was before Coke. According to my research, let me find this for you now real quick. Yes, Dr. Pepper was created in the 1880s, and it was created by a pharmacist named Charles Alderton in Waco, Texas in 1885. Coca-Cola was introduced on May 8th, 1886. If I'm wrong, write me. I know a lot of you wrote me to correct me about that Pepsi business, so I have a lot of egg on my face right now. But no, Pepsi was definitely after Coke, and it was first, as I mentioned last time, introduced as Brad's Drink in New Bern, North Carolina, by Caleb Bradham at his drugstore. And it was renamed Pepsi in 1898. So there you have it. In 1893 is when Brad's Drink was created versus Coca-Cola's 1886 on May 8th, 1886. So I had to correct that because I look like a real idiot. And anytime I make a mistake, I'm going to correct it because I want to be an informative and hopefully entertaining program. And by the way, the only reason I'm doing this solo this time is because it was a little too late for Al. Howell had some family business, and he requested that we do the interview Sunday evening as we're live. And so to accommodate him, I said, no problem. Al, he goes to bed like around 10, and I'd have to drive all the way. Like, he lives 26 miles from me each way. And Tom is busy with work. He's resting up. He's been working so hard because of all the hurricanes and stuff. He just needed a week off to rest. And he may call in. I don't know. By the way, if you want to call in to talk about anything nostalgic, the number is 770-438-1050. 770-438-1050. Now, I want to talk about and play a quick trailer to the brand new special presentation on Disney Plus. It's called Werewolf by Night. And this was a real surprise because there was a press release not too long ago announcing Werewolf by Night, and I thought it was going to be another weekly series like She-Hulk or Hawkeye. But it's a one-shot, at least for now, short movie. It's about 54 minutes long, and it just dropped as we're live here in October 2022 on Disney Plus, and it is excellent. It's very well shot, but the weird thing is it's pretty violent. When I say weird, Disney Plus is all over the place because they put a disclaimer before the Muppet Show, but then they don't warn you in any way that there's violent content. And I mean, there's a scene in this. This isn't spoiling anything. I had a flashback to the 1993 Riddick Bowe Evander Holyfield fight. Think Ear. And there's beheadings and there's a lot of blood, but it is in black and white for the most part. So at least you don't see the blood. Now, I'm not squirmish when it comes to blood, but if you are, have no fear. It's in black and white. But let's play a little bit of a clip. And what I really liked about the first thing you see when you dial up or want to stream Werewolf by Night on Disney Plus, you see like an old school special presentation. Special presentation graphic, kind of like the old CBS. Hang on a second. Hey, here's our friend, Mr. Williams. How you doing?
All right, how you doing, Chad?
Good. I got a request for you, sir.
Sure.
Can you call the show line 770-438-1050?
Okay, we'll do it.
770-438-1050. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
That's Tom. Basil Chesterman. He's going to be calling back. Let me get it. Boom. Hello, Basil.
Was that fast enough?
That was so fast. How you doing, man?
Okay. So I noticed you're talking about the new movie on Disney Plus,
Yes, sir.
which I'm surprised Walt's not spinning in his grave over those kind of movies. But that's another story for another time. I enjoyed the movie. I thought it was pretty good. I was somewhat surprised by it. What did you like it?
I did. I liked it a lot. Now, for those that don't know, you are a director. I mean, you work. Am I allowed to say where you work, or would you rather I not?
It doesn't matter.
He works at the Weather Channel, and he worked at Turner. I mean, he's worked for Tyler Perry. He's a professional director, so his opinion really matters. And as opposed to a critic who probably hasn't directed anything to save their life. But I like the way it was shot. I like the black and white. But I'll shut up and let you offer your expert opinion.
I like the black and white, and I like how they introduced color into it. But I won't tell you about the very end. But how they introduced color with the orb and everything, and I really enjoyed the movie because it tried to be. Listen, I thought the monster named Ted, which I hope I'm not giving too much away, remind me of Mr. Snuffleupagus from Sesame Street, of all things. But I enjoyed the movie. It had it was a little grisly in places, but I still think it was a type of movie that was far better than the Monsters.
Yeah.
I know you saw that, but it built up. You did not know the other guy was kind of the werewolf until like the middle of the movie, and I just like the way the whole thing was put together. I especially like you. I enjoyed the open. The open was very good too. It was very well done. I know you had shown me that about a week ago, and I liked that as well. I mean, they really took some time with this, and I thought it was very good. Now, how was it in comparison to the comic?
Very good. There's some debate about Man-Thing. I'll go ahead and say what the character is that you just alluded to, like the Snuffleupagus and Sesame Street.
Yeah.
By the way, remember there was a scene, I'll just say it because this is a minor spoiler, but there's a scene where a dude's ear gets ripped off, and I have a correction. Yeah. Jeff corrects me. It was Mike Tyson, not Riddick Bowe, that bit off Evander Holyfield's
Correct.
ear, and I knew that. I misspoke again. I did the same thing with Tim Wakefield, who was a pitcher for Pittsburgh Pirates back in the 90s. Anyway, and I said I knew he wasn't a Braves pitcher. I hate it when I misspeak. All right, I'll shut up. The floor is yours.
No, that's okay. No, that's okay. But the movie itself, I did not like the I call her the bad female character in the movie, the wife of the guy who died. I'm trying not to say too much for the people that might not have seen it, but the guy who died at the very beginning of the movie, she had control of the Bloodstone. I think it's the Bloodstone, right?
It is the Bloodstone, correct.
Yeah, and so they had to figure out who was going to inherit the Bloodstone, not the daughter, because she was estranged. So, but she was there, and I just thought it was very well. You weren't expecting some parts of the movie to evolve the way it evolved. At least I thought, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Is there going to be a sequel to it? Because surely there was more than one comic, right?
Yes, there was. It actually started, and perfect timing. I put before the camera, if you're listening, you need to go to our YouTube channel, The Nostalgic Podblast, to see this. But Werewolf by Night was first introduced in November 1971 in a comic book called Marvel Spotlight, which was just like it sounds. It was a book designed to highlight new characters they were trying out and experimenting with, and it was very popular. It was in issues 2 through 4 of that book was dedicated to Werewolf by Night, and then he got his own monthly comic book. I think it was bi-monthly at first, called Werewolf by Night. And I think it was June of 1972 was when Werewolf by Night issue 1 was unveiled to the public. And the value of these books is spiking right now as people try to scoop them up as they see this thing on Disney Plus. Yeah.
Now, how many of them do you have?
I have them all. There were only Tom, there were only 43 issues of Werewolf by Night, the regular book. And the last one was published in December 1976. Now, they brought him back since then, and he's a different alter ego as of 2020. And I'll talk about that in a moment. I'm going to go into some detail.
Why do you think Disney Plus or Marvel Studios brought this comic to life in this movie? I mean, why did they pick this out of all the comic books that they've come out with? Why was it just the timing of Halloween, or what was it that piqued so tremendous interest in the corporate level to produce this type of a vehicle.
I think because they've kind of scraped the bottom of the barrel with the superheroes for now until the Fantastic Four is finally produced. That is the most anticipated new Marvel project that's down the road. But I think you're right. It's the timing of Halloween, which was brilliant. And I love the beginning. Yeah. This isn't giving anything away, but, you know, we've all seen ad nauseum the Marvel Studios logo and music and graphic, and I like how they put a new spin on that in this, a horror spin. Yeah.
Yeah, they sure did.
But I think that's the reason. I think they're just trying to branch out and try different things and be innovative.
Well, I do hope that they get the same group of people back together and do another in a series of these, 2 or 3 of these. And I hope it evolves, and I hope it becomes very well done, because it was very well done. It's better than anything Universal could have done, because Universal tried to relaunch, the Dark Universe with the Mummy with Tom Cruise, and that was unsuccessful. And so they were going to do a series of classic horror movies, and because that movie did not do well at the box office, they just shelved the idea and just heck with it. And I hope this spurns more of this genre type of situation in the Marvel universe, which I thought was, like I said, it was well done. It was just a well done, enjoyable piece. It wasn't long. It wasn't drawn out. It wasn't, they could shorten this, or they could shorten that. It was done very well, I thought. It was just very well done.
It was, and there's a whole bunch of horror characters that Marvel adapted, like Frankenstein. The Frankenstein monster appeared in the X-Men comic books, and Dracula, Tomb of Dracula was a series. So they're going to probably do their spin, and it is funny how they can sort of get around the legal aspects of Universal Studios, who owns the classic Wolfman character.
Yes, correct. But as you all know, as it was lit, you never really saw, except when he got on, I don't want to say got on top of her, but I will go ahead and say it. That's the only time you really saw his face. And, it wasn't lit all that great to where it would give away. So it's kind of like they weren't copying a Lon Chaney or anything like that. It was their own spin on it, I thought. I really thought it was their own take on it. And
yes.
They didn't really show it,
Yes.
But I enjoyed it. That's about all I've got to say about it. I watched it again this afternoon, and
really.
So there you go. I mean, for me to watch something more than once, it means something. I will never watch the Munsters again, the Munsters movie, but that's another story. But I'm glad I saw it, And there's a lot of movies where I will watch, and I'll go, well, I'll never watch that again, and that type of thing. If it's a movie I want to see again, then that says something. I love Van Helsing, and the critics panned it, and
yes, they did.
For what it's worth, I thought it was a great movie. It was very well done. I even like what they did to the Frankenstein monster, who's from Georgia. That's the guy who played him. So anyway, that's all I've got to say about that. It was a good movie. I enjoyed it, and I'm glad you liked it as well.
I did, and my only complaint, to your point, was I thought I didn't really like the look of the werewolf. Even though you didn't see him that clearly, as you pointed out, I didn't like the way, basically, his fur looked. I don't know. It just looked. I don't know. I don't know what they were going for. If they're going for a retro monster movie look or what, but it didn't look like the comic books. But maybe that's because of legalities. Maybe that was the loophole. They couldn't look too much like Lon Chaney's Wolfman. Maybe that's it.
Yeah, that's correct. Maybe that was it. They were trying to kind of hide it in the shadows.
Yes.
But,
and brother, I've got to get some OBS software because I'm struggling to show these comic books on my little one-camera shoestring operation here at Studio D, which tonight looks like Studio D for dump compared to your fabulous studio.
Well, we'll get you straight. We'll get you hooked up, and it's not as hard as you think. But you know, one baby steps. Yeah, that's all there is to it. So hang in there, and I will talk at you later this week, my friend.
All right.
Everybody, continue to listen, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Basil, a.k.a. Tom Williams. Have a good evening. Get a lot of rest, my brother.
Okay, my brother. Bye-bye.
Bye. Tom Williams. So that's great. I'm glad that he found time to call in. He's been working a lot because of all the recent storms. I mean, if you're listening to this in the springtime, you'll probably still remember Hurricane Ian just wreaked havoc on Florida and Puerto Rico, and now we have other storms brewing, but, you know, you got to do what you got to do. So thank you to Tom. Thank you to Howell for calling in. And I want to talk about a little bit about the origin of the Werewolf by Night character that Tom was asking about. And I'm going to talk about Man-Thing. And that is kind of a surprise. I kind of feel bad revealing that if you haven't seen it yet. But it's not a major character. But there is another. It's kind of like Marvel's answer to Swamp Thing, but I'm going to talk about that too. We're talking about Brand or Brand X. Well, Marvel and DC had a Brand or Brand X with the Man-Thing and the Swamp Thing. It's the same general character. A tortured soul who gets turned into a monster in the swamp, basically. But which came first? You're going to find out here in just a second. So Werewolf by Night was introduced. I'm going to hold this up for the camera. Again, usually I have this better framed on camera, but this is the very first appearance. This is a red hot comic book as we're live here in October 2022 that we talked about. Marvel Spotlight issue number 2. That's the first appearance of Marvel's Werewolf by Night. There you go. Okay, so I want to show that on camera. And here's the other couple issues I want to show as well. Again, if you're listening, I know this will sound really boring. I would encourage you to go to the Nostalgic Podblast YouTube channel or Facebook group, our rapidly growing Facebook group. There's thousands of members in there. I know most don't care about the show. They care about the nostalgia and the posts. I get it. But still, we do a weekly show in there. Here's this is the second appearance in Marvel Comics of Werewolf by Night in Marvel Spotlight issue number 3. Now, Mike Plug is the artist who drew this, and he has a huge following. He was a very talented artist, and we'll talk about that in just a second. I just wanted to take a moment to show you all 3 of the Marvel Spotlight Werewolf by Night issues which introduced the character. There you go. And then he got his own series, and I want to show you on camera for those watching. Later on in the show, I'll just play a clip where I can hold these up properly and look at the monitor and make sure they're in frame and everything. But there's the first issue of his own solo book, which hit in June of 1972, which is interesting. You'll see September. And I've talked about this before, but to the layman out there that's not a comic book guy or gal, back then the dates would be 3 months ahead of time for distribution purposes. Think of it as like an expiration date for milk. This is when the guy stocking the shelves knew to remove this issue and put the latest one in its place. That's why in the publishing world, magazines and comic books would always be ahead of time, if you've ever wondered. That's the reason. It's just for distribution purposes. But I'm going to show you some comics, including, here's the first appearance of Moon Knight. This is Werewolf by Night issue 32. I need to get this graded. It's a really nice copy, and that's a pretty valuable comic book. It's moderately valuable, thousands of dollars, not millions of dollars, but one day, in good condition, will be worth more. So anyway, let's get back to the history of Werewolf by Night. That issue, Marvel Spotlight number 2 that I held up for the camera, first hit the public in November 1971, as I mentioned. And the werewolf concept was adapted for a Marvel comic version by writer Jerry Conway, spelled Gerry, Conway. And it was after the Marvel comic book writer Roy Thomas thought of the idea to adapt a werewolf character for Marvel back in the early 1970s. And the series title, Werewolf by Night, was actually suggested by Stan Lee. And the initial creative team was writer Jerry Conway and artist Mike Plug, spelled Ploog, who worked from a plot by Roy Thomas and his wife Jeannie Thomas for the first issue, which was Marvel Spotlight issue 2. Jack Russell was the character's alter ego, the human Werewolf by Night, Jack Russell, which later became a different character, Jake Gomez, in October 2020. Many decades later. Now, readers have often pointed out that the lead character's name, Jack Russell, is also the breed of a dog. And Jerry Conway said that while he cannot remember how he came up with that name, it's unlikely that he was making this canine reference consciously, since he did not own a dog and never lived with one growing up. How strange. Gosh, I don't know anyone that didn't have a dog. Now, that's no disrespect to him. That's unusual. That really is unusual. All right, so the Werewolf by Night stories and artwork in Marvel Spotlight issues 2 through 4 that I held up for the camera were so popular, to Tom Williams' point, that the character was given its own comic series titled Werewolf by Night, starting in June 1972. I know I'm repeating myself, but I have a script I must follow just to get it right. I've made so many mistakes when I'm off the cuff. I don't want to ruin my credibility any further as an expert in pop culture, which I'm not. I'm always learning just like you, but I want to present factual information. So anyway, June of 72, right at the start of the summertime, is when Werewolf by Night's solo book started. And along the way, actually, some notable characters made their debut in the Werewolf by Night comic book, including Moon Knight, showed that comic. And he has his own Disney Plus streaming series. And then also a character named Tigra, who was introduced in the Werewolf by Night double-sized Creatures issue. And Tigra was actually, just like you would think, she was kind of a sexy, like, humanoid tiger. And she was drawn, of course, by men to be really sexy. I'm going to hold it up for the camera. This is her first appearance, and she was actually a character that morphed. She was the Cat at first, a human character, kind of like a take on the Catwoman in Batman. Marvel's answer, drawn by Wally Wood. And then she was Hellcat, an Avenger. And then she became Tigra. And I know we're going to see Tigra in the Marvel Comics universe, the MCU as it's called, in either a streaming show or a feature film. But I hope this was in frame. That's the first appearance in giant-sized Creatures featuring Werewolf by Night. That's Tigra. And like I mentioned to Tom when he asked, I'm going to show you. This is such bad audio, I know. This is the Cat. This is Tigra's original superheroine identity. The Cat, like a cat burglar. And her solo comic book only lasted a few issues. Look, I have 3 copies of the first issue. I've been stocking up because I know this character is coming just as an investment. Let me show you here now. I'm really struggling, folks. I got lazy. I'm so used to having Al and Tom to lean on and in our limited edition episodes together. We're going to still continue to do this together. I kid, I joke, but there's 3 issues of the Cat, issue 1, and she only lasted, I think, 4 issues or so. Yeah, 4 issues of the Cat. Anyway, and that was in 1971, 1972, 1973. So anyway, we're talking about Werewolf by Night here. I'm not good, folks. I'm just not good. I'm not a professional broadcaster. I'm just a geek. So Werewolf by Night lasted 43 issues. And the last issue hit the stands, the news stands, and the comic book racks in December of 1976 with a March 1977 cover date. And of all people, Iron Man was in that last issue of Werewolf by Night. So, yes, this character, even though he was a monster, he would interact with the superhero Marvel Comics universe in the comic books. Here's the last issue. Werewolf by Night, issue 43. Anyone watching on camera? There you go. Where am I losing my place here? So I want to talk about the Man-Thing, who was kind of a surprise in this movie, this 54-minute, 54-ish length mini movie, Werewolf by Night. And I wanted to play, this will give me a chance to hold up some comic books for those watching, but I want to have some audio for the listeners while I do that, so it's not a total tune-out as I show comic books and talk about them for those that aren't watching. But here is a brief, I think it's a 1.5 long trailer. Yes, it would be better if you could see this, but it's still got some good audio. This is Marvel Studios' special presentation. And as I said, right when Tom was calling, I really like that they did an old school special, really colorful logo, kind of like the old CBS special presentation. You've seen it. I know anyone that's a Gen Xer like me or a boomer has seen this in the old days of television, like even the 70s and the early 80s. they would have a little graphic, and they even put this in the trailer, which you can hear, but just visualize colorful images that say special. I thought it was really creative. Here we go.
This Halloween, you can't escape the shock, the terror of Werewolf by Night.
Tonight, it is every hunter for themselves.
Good luck. I'll be rotting for you.
But one of you is a monster, masquerading as one of our own. I can't wait to find out what breed of evil you are. You wanna see this, darling?
Please don't do this. Death is coming for you!
Werewolf by Night.
Oh, goodness. And I didn't mention to Tom, I meant to mention this to him since he is a professional director, that I like that they made it look like film. Not only was it in black and white, but anyone that's old like us will remember going to the movies when it wasn't digital, when it was film, and you'd see like a little circular mark, and that was to signify to the projectionist it's time for a reel change. 35 millimeter film would be on a platter. Little history lesson, and the reels literally would be two 35 millimeter projectors, and you'd have to shut one off and turn one on and do the reel changes in the old projectionist style of showing movies. And you'd see like this little, like a circle, like a little white circle, and they added that digitally into the imaging in Werewolf by Night on Disney Plus. I thought that was clever of the director. They made it look like film, so I thought that was just really neat. So let's see. I feel like an idiot saying that it was Riddick Bowe that ripped off Mike Tyson's ear when it was Tyson. I knew that. Geez, sometimes, God, it's scary. It's scary when my mind just goes blank like that. So this Man-Thing character, I want to talk about this character who's also in this movie, Werewolf by Night. So here's the origin of that character, who was Marvel's answer to Swamp Thing. And I teased this earlier. Which came first, Swamp Thing or Man-Thing? You're about to find out right now. This Man-Thing character was created actually by Stan Lee, Roy Thomas, and Gary Conway, again spelled Geroy, and artist Gray Morrow. The character first appeared in a Marvel magazine, which was adult in nature, not adult as in adult entertainment, adult as in curse words, violence, gore. It definitely was not a comic book. I don't think it had to be mandated. In fact, I know by the Comics Code Authority. In comic books of those days, most of them, except for Amazing Spider-Man issues 96, 97, and 98, that's another story, that was not approved by the Comics Code because Stan Lee wrote a drug storyline where a character overdosed and died. It was an anti-drug storyline, and the Comics Code Authority didn't think that was suitable for younger readers, which I think it was a great cautionary tale against drug abuse. But anyway, that's another story. I digress. But if you look at old comic books, you'll see a little seal, and it stands for the Comics Code Authority. And that goes back to a book called Seduction of the Innocent many years ago that alerted parents, and there were congressional hearings about EC horror and horror comic books and how they were destroying our youth and seducing the innocent and ruining America. And so this authority was formed, the Comics Code Authority. So the magazine was not mandated by that. Therefore, it could be more adult in nature in terms of the content. They didn't have to adhere to the rules of the Comics Code Authority. So Man-Thing actually first appeared in this magazine, Savage Tales issue number 1. And on the cover, talk about adult, it shows Conan the Barbarian beheading, holding the head of someone he'd slain. And they did that in the first Conan movie from 1981. Remember that with James Earl Jones and Arnold Schwarzenegger? And he cuts off James Earl Jones's character's head. That was based on the cover of this magazine. So right on the cover, you see some pretty intense violence. And that had was it 11 or 9 page? Let me see here. There was a little story in that magazine that introduced Man-Thing. Now, the cover date of Savage Tales #1 was February 1971. And it actually got canceled after that first issue. Now, the first time Man-Thing appeared in a comic book in color, because the magazine was in black and white, was in Adventure into Fear issue 10. I'm holding that up for the camera right now for you comic nerds out there like me. And this is a really nice copy I have in my collection. And this book is starting to warm up a little bit and gain a little bit of value. So, but which came first? Well, I'll tell you right now. Yeah, like I said, Adventure to Fear was the first appearance of Man-Thing in the form of a comic book, not a magazine. The DC comic character Swamp Thing, which was also a humanoid / plant elemental creature, was created by writer Len Wein. L-E-N, first name spelled L-E-N, last name spelled W-E-I-N. He passed away a few years ago, Len Wein, and he's also credited for creating the character of Wolverine, which there's some controversy. Anyone that knows, there's some strong evidence that a reader of Marvel Comics actually submitted the character of Wolverine, and they published it in a fan magazine, FOOM, Friends of Old Marvel, and the guy didn't. Anyway, but Len Wein is credited for creating Wolverine. So anyway, Len Wein, God, I can't talk tonight, definitely created Swamp Thing for DC, along with the classic artist Bernie Wrightson, Wrightson. And Swamp Thing had several humanoid or monster incarnations in various different storylines. But the character first appeared in a DC comic book titled House of Secrets, issue 92, which hit the streets in April of 1971, 2 months after Man-Thing hit the scene. So, dun dun dun! There you go. Marvel's House of Ideas struck first in terms of when it hit. It hit a full 2 months before Swamp Thing. So Man-Thing was the first swamp creature character in comic books. But actually, I'm about to tell you in a second, it goes back to 1959, the origin of Man-Thing on the Marvel side. So actually, Marvel had thought of a concept of the Man-Thing. And no, that's not an analogy for a penis. It sounds like there's been a lot of jokes throughout the years about Man-Thing. Anyway, not to be sorry. I know a lot of people don't like when I get a little blue. I'm just saying I had to acknowledge that Man-Thing does sound kind of silly. But anyway, let me just say that about the origin of that, the black and white adventure fantasy magazine Savage Tales that I mentioned that introduced Man-Thing, debuted that character in an 11-page origin story. That's right. I can't remember if it was 9 or it was 11 pages in black and white. And the Man-Thing was conceived in discussions between Marvel Comics editor at the time, Stan Lee, who had taken a backseat to writing comic books, and he became sort of an editor-in-chief in the early 1970s. Actually, he retired, I believe, in 1969 from writing comic books. He came out of retirement in 1979, 10 years later, to create She-Hulk. That's another story, to compete with the television people. They didn't want the Incredible Hulk Universal TV show people to create a female Hulk where the TV people would own the character, own the merchandising rights, the toy money, all that stuff. So anyway, but I'm all over the place here. Getting back to Man-Thing. Man-Thing was conceived in discussions between Marvel Comics then editor Stan Lee and writer Roy Thomas. Together they created 5 possible origins for the character of Man-Thing. Stan Lee provided the name, which had been previously used for unrelated creatures in Marvel's early science fiction and fantasy anthology book titled Tales of Suspense, issue number 7, from cover date January 1960, so that would have been October 1959. And another issue 81 from September 1966 cover date, so that'd be June 1966 in actual calendar street time, as well as the concept of a man losing sentience. So this plant monster guy goes way back. So, Swamp Thing definitely did not come first. And in fact, Roy Thomas in 2002 recalled this. I'm going to quote here. He says, Stan Lee called me in. It would have been late 1970 or early 1971. He had a couple of sentences or so for the concept of the Man-Thing. I think it was mainly the notion of a guy working on some experimental drug or something for the government, and his being accosted by spies and getting fused with the swamp so that he becomes this creature. The creature itself sounds a lot like the Heap, H-E-A-P, Heap, but which is another character, obviously, but neither of us mentioned that character at the time. I didn't care much for the name Man-Thing because we already had The Thing, a superhero, in the superhero team, the Fantastic Four. You know, the pile of rocks, Ben Grimm is the human alter ego of Ben Grimm is The Thing in the Fantastic Four. And I thought it would be confusing to have another character even called Man-Thing. So Roy Thomas worked out a detailed plot and gave it to Jerry Conway to write and script. Thomas and Conway are credited as writers, with Gray Morrow as an artist. A second story written by Len Wein, the creator of Swamp Thing that I just talked about, and drawn by Neil Adams, who just died in 2021. Great artist who drew the X-Men for Marvel and Green Lantern on DC. He's one of my favorite comic artists of all time. But Neil Adams and Len Wein were prepared at that time to create Swamp Thing, but upon Savage Tales cancellation after just one issue, it took a year or two to see print, according to Thomas, meaning a second story with Man-Thing. Actually, that was written by Len Wein and drawn by Neil Adams, and I have it right here for the camera. And it was released to the public with a street date of March of 1972 in a comic called Astonishing Tales, issue 12. Again, if you're listening to this on an audio-only platform, our video is on the YouTube channel, The Nostalgic Podblast, or in our Facebook Live feed in the Nostalgic Podblast Facebook group. But let me see, what did I do with that comic book? I had it right here, and I got to be, here it is. This is Astonishing Tales issue number 12, which was the second comic book appearance of the Man-Thing. If you don't care about comic books, I know you've probably tuned out a long time ago. So let's see, what else did I have for you now? I think I had another quick clip. Now, I've talked about with the boys, my nostalgic brothers, Al Hardy and Basil Chesterman, a.k.a. Tom Williams, or vice versa, about watching the Beverly Hillbillies on streaming services. And I discovered that the first season and a half or so of the Beverly Hillbillies actually went to public domain when the rights lapsed years ago. And so those copies are actually from the estate of Paul Henning, who created the Beverly Hillbillies. And I tried to play a clip at the Fabulous Studio East last week, and you couldn't really hear it that well. It's very brief. It's like just a few seconds. I think it's 30 seconds of a nice little Kellogg's Beverly Hillbillies plug. And what they would do is they would play, of course, the "Come and Listen to a Story About a Man Named Jet." That theme. I can't even play it because I'll get dinged by the copyright bots on Facebook. But, you know, the Scoggins, the classic theme. Well, there was another stanza that would have the sponsor. Kellogg's Cereals sponsored the first few years of the Beverly Hillbillies. And what was cool is they would show the cereal boxes during the end credits, which were removed later in rerun syndication. But these copies that are streaming on Tubi, I recommend Tubi, T-U-B-I, because it's very limited commercial interruption. I think there's only like a 30-second commercial before the show begins. And then if they have a break, they're very brief commercials. There's one other break midway through, and sometimes they don't even have a break at all. But it's also streaming on Prime, I believe, the first season and a half of the Beverly Hillbillies. And it's kind of weird that season 2 in its entirety didn't go public domain, just the first 19 episodes of season 2. And there were 36 episodes in season 2. And there were 36 episodes in season 1 of Beverly Hillbillies. Back then, you had a full friggin' season. It wasn't like today where 22 episodes is a full season, if that. It's been 22 episodes designated a full TV season for quite some time, since like the 80s. But it used to be a lot longer than that, as was the case with the Beverly Hillbillies. But I want to play just this extra verse of the theme with the sponsor plug. I think it's pretty cool now that I think I can play this with some decent audio just for historical purposes. Where are you, my little friend? Where are you, my little friend? Here you are. Let's listen.
Now come along and visit with the Clampett family as they learn the simple pleasures of the hills of Beverly. That includes the products of your sponsor of the week, the cereals of Kellogg's, Kellogg's of Battle Creek. K-E-L-L-O double good Kellogg's, best to you.
I like that. So there's that one. And I have another one I want to play. And that would be, like I said, in the opening credits of every episode in the first few seasons of Beverly Hillbillies. And they'd be driving in their car. It's a continuation of their credit where it shows the actors' names. Irene Ryan and Donna Douglas, yada, yada, yada. Max Baer and blah, blah, blah. Of course, Buddy Epson. And then they would pass a billboard, and that's where the sponsor's message would be, and it would show Kellogg's cereal. And like I said, the end credits would show boxes of cereal that show Raisin Bran Special K, Frosted Flakes, Corn Flakes, and I love the artwork in those old boxes. And it was like 1962, 1963, but the artwork is so old-fashioned. It was just kind of neat, I thought. And they would show instead of Corn Pops, it was Sugar Pops, which I think, Sugar Pops instead of Corn Pops. They always rename these cereals. I don't think they even had Apple Jacks yet. I used to like Apple Jacks growing up and Fruit Loops. But I want to play one other little Beverly Hillbilly sponsor plug, and then we'll sign off for the night. Just have a couple other things. I don't want to have like a marathon-length Podblast. My friend in St. Louis is on the air. I usually watch him Sunday night, Geek to Me Radio in St. Louis on KTRS. I like to listen to his show, and because of scheduling with my guest Howell Golson, howellgolson.com, I had to do this Sunday night. I usually would be watching his show right now. But let me just play an old Beverly Hillbillies Kellogg's commercial. Let's listen.
Here you are, Granny.
Thanks, I'll try again.
Hey, where's that there baseball fella?
He took off in some of your things.
All that running sure makes a fella hungry.
Yeah, sure would like to have something to give my strength back. Like some fresh-boiled golf eggs.
I'd rather have something that's crispy and crunchy.
Yeah, something with a nice corn taste.
Yeah, with cream and sugar.
How about some Kellogg's Corn Flakes?
Yeah!
You two are sure getting to be city slickers.
Corniest flakes anybody makes, Kellogg's.
There you go. And I had another one. I guess I'll go ahead and play it while I can show some comics for the camera. I want to have some audio for the listeners only so that I'm not just totally boring, which I know I am. I try not to be. Yeah, here it is. Let me just pull this up for you right fast quick. This was one. All right, let's just review. If anyone that has never seen the Beverly Hillbillies, obviously they strike oil and then they move to Beverly. Everybody knows that. But the Drysdales, Mr. Drysdale had an assistant who was in love with Jethro. So here's like a funny scene. She's very plain Jane, her character, who is Jane, Miss Jane, in the show. But let me just play. I think this was it. I wanted to play one more ad, which I just like these. Nope, that's the one I just played. I am messing up tonight, folks. And did the Mets lose? I got to look that up. If you're listening to this March 2023, this will be terribly dated, but I'm wondering if the Mets got knocked out of the 2022 season or not. I'll look that up before I sign off. Okay, here we go. Here's Mrs. Hathaway, who is working at the bank. She's the secretary, basically. Oh, shucks. Let me get the audio to work. Of Mr. Drysdale. And she's trying to woo Jethro, who she has a crush on, with cornflakes cereal.
Romeo, Romeo. Wherefore art thou, Romeo?
Ain't no Romeo around here, Miss Jane.
How true.
Hey, is that for me?
I thought you might enjoy a little repast.
Rather have some of them Kellogg's cornflakes.
Yeah. Are you happy in Beverly Hills, Jethro?
It's got the thing I want most in life. Good food.
I never learn.
Kellogg's best to you.
There you go.
The Beverly Hillbillies has been presented by Kellogg's Corn Flakes. from Kellogg's of Battle Creek.
Well, now it's time to say goodbye to Jed and all his kin. They would like to thank you folks for kindly dropping in. You're all invited back next week to this locality to have a heaping helping of their hospitality. Hillbilly, that is. Set a spell. Take your shoes off. You all come back now. Here.
This has been a Filmways presentation.
I like the Donna Douglas version. This has been a Filmways presentation. And everybody knows that she was in the Twilight Zone. We've talked about this ad nauseum here on the Podblast and with the fellas. But they didn't use her voice. She was in an episode, Eye of the Beholder, in season 2 of Twilight Zone from way back in 1960, a full 2 years before the debut of the Beverly Hillbillies. And that was the pig-like planet, or the people looked very much like pigs with the makeup, and they abhorred beauty. They were repulsed by what we consider beautiful people. And in their society, the beautiful people were the freaks. They wanted conformity. It was a terrible society in that story written by Rod Serling, the late, great Rod Serling. But she also was in a season 3 episode from 1961 that most people always forget about. She played a debutante. But anyway, I introduced a new game to the fellas, the TV cliche of the week. And at first I called it the cliche line of the week. And the line was, "Forgive me, David, but you're a terrible liar." You know, I wanted to mention a line you don't really hear in real life that you hear on TV all the time. And then I opened it up to the nostalgic cliche of the week on TV, and that would be the amnesia factor. Talked about it last week, where someone's thumped on the head and they lose their memory. It's just a terribly trite plot device. And then they get hit on the head again, and their memory suddenly returns. It's just so hokey. Well, this week I wanted to mention another TV cliche. Now, this goes way back to like Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea in 1964, 1965 in the first year or so, and other shows as well, like Lost in Space and even The Bionic Woman. I watched an episode on film that I put on eBay. I'm clearing out some film because I'm just trying to get rid of some stock, and there's an episode called The Vega Influence that showed this. All right, well, what's the point? Get to the point. All right, I'll get to the point. I won't digress any further. The cliche is, it's a visual cliche when they show an air conditioning unit with little like ribbons or streaming pieces of ribbon. You never see that in real life. And the thought was that you want to, especially like in Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, where the submarine is submerged and they've lost power and they're burning up. They wanted to show that they have no AC, no air conditioning, and people are sweating. And so when it came back on, you saw these little streamers or ribbons blowing in the wind through the doggone vent. You know, it's just so silly. You never see that in real life. And I saw it on a 1976 Bionic Woman film print, and I saw it in a Lost in Space, you know, where they're trying to show the audience, oh, look, the AC's come back on. They've saved the day. The atomic power is reactivated, so our heroes are going to be okay now. It's just so corny. You never see a real AC vent with streamers, but you would see that all the time in TV in the 1960s, particularly the Irwin Allen shows. So that was my little television cliche of the week. The little air conditioner vents with little ribbons. Well, I wish all of you, and I want to also do a quick correction also to the fellas. When we talked about Crackle and Nestle's Crunch, and we're talking about, we digressed into Halloween candy, since it's, as we're live, Halloween candy season that we're buying for our neighbors and for the kids that are going to come around. And I mentioned the Marathon Bar and how Cadbury is manufacturing the Curly Whirly Bar in England, and how I ordered a 5-pack of them. Well, cheap me. You know what I should have done? I should have shared it with the fellas, because I have 3 left. I've eaten 2 of them, and in each little Curly Whirly Bar by Cadbury, it's delicious. It's a great confection. It's braided caramel with chocolate. I should have opened one up and shared it, because it comes in 3 pieces in the pack. It's a 5-pack, and each of the 5 individually wrapped candy pieces have 3 sections, so we could have each eaten one on camera. So sorry, fellas, if you're watching or listening. Next time we're together, I will share one of my Curly Whirly bars with you, which I should have done at the time. I was being a selfish P-R-I-C-K. Except I did bring them pizza. I brought them the delicious Papa John's stuffed pepperoni crust pizza, which I highly recommend. I don't mind giving them a free plug because at my local Papa John's here, next door to where the Braves play, the Battery at Truist Park. I like SunTrust Park better, but anyway, Truist Park. That Papa John's gives me boxes. I ship film reels in pizza boxes. I mean, new pizza boxes. And the film, look, it's the size of a pizza. If you're watching on camera, there's basically the size of an hour television show on 16 millimeter reel-to-reel film. And by the way, I mentioned this to the fellas in a group text. I found on film, I forgot I had this. The very first appearance of Khan in Star Trek, an episode called Space Seed on 16 millimeter film. I have so much film I don't know what to do with. And if my buyers are listening, they're going to resent this, but Al has put in my head, you got to sell them. Every film print's going to go bad eventually. The color's going to fade, and it's going to go vinegar. It's going to go vinegar. Now, not all films will go vinegar, and not all films will fade. It depends on the film stock. You could have low fade film stock. I know no one cares, but I care, so it's our show. It's my show, so I'm going to talk about it. Fuji Color, low fade, will retain color for years and years, as are my Fall Guys. I have all the Fall Guys on film. I've talked about that ad nauseum. And most of them have gorgeous color to this day because they're Fuji Color film stock. And then you have some film stock that can never go vinegar. You have Mylar film stock, so it varies. But anyway, Al has put in my head, you've got to sell these films or they're just going to turn to dust. So what am I doing? Yes, I am, and I'm not getting rid of my good. Well, I shouldn't say that. So my buyer, I need to shut the hell up because anytime someone buys something from me on eBay, the Nostalgic Podblast eBay, I put a show sticker, the Nostalgic Podblast in there, and then fistfulofradio.com. By the way, if you're listening, thanks for listening to fistfulofradio.com. I also want to plug my music show, Retro Music Cuts, which airs Saturday and Sunday evenings, generally around 11 p.m. for the Night Owls. And I play music you don't hear on the traditional terrestrial radio much anymore because everything in radio is so corporate mandated and corporate owned, and they have their hands tied. And they play the same damn songs again and again. Same with XM. I try to be a little more, I have a lot more variety, and I play all styles of music. The one I play the least is probably country, although I did play some Loretta Lynn songs this week, and I change the songs out frequently because nobody likes to hear the same songs again and again and again. But I invite you to check out Retro Music Cuts on fistfulofradio.com Saturday and Sunday night, or Saturday and Sunday mornings, 10 a.m. to 1-ish. Saturday and Sunday, and then Tuesday and Thursday evenings and into the late night. And then, of course, this show, the Nostalgic Podblast, is on Fistful of Radio. And we have all sorts of other great shows about sports, like Pro Football Fast Break. We have some great comedians like Jim Gossett, newsmakerline.com. He's a very talented comedian who does all sorts of parodies. And so he can sing, he can write. He's multi-talented, and he covers the news. And anyway, so I have all sorts of great shows. There's a show called Saving Our America, which is pretty good. But, we want, and how could I forget Curtis? Retrozest. He has a huge following on social media, and that's a nostalgia page. If you're watching this on the Nostalgic Podblast Facebook group, I would encourage you to check out the Retrozest podcast and Retrozest on Facebook or retrozest.com. Curtis has a lot of good guests. And he does a really good job, and it's non-political. If you don't want to talk about or hear about politics, if you're tired of it, or if you've already gotten your fill from other sources that you trust, and you just want to just shut your mind off for a little bit and take a trip down memory lane, I would encourage you to check out his show. And then, of course, our friend Al Hardy, he's got a page, and so does Tom. Tom's is, I got his coast right there, the Nostalgic Podcast page on Facebook. And Al has so many names, I can't keep up with them. I know he has Al Hardy Entertainment on YouTube. He's trying to grow. And Rewind Nostalgia, I think, is his Facebook group. So check that out, too. Just want to give a shout out to my friends. But to all of you, we'll see you next time. And happy Halloween! That's happy Horror-ween to you and yours. Be safe out there. And we'll be back next time, probably with the fellas, probably at Al's fabulous studio at Al's place. And I was going to play you a teaser of the video game Friday the 13th, but we've moved on since then, so we'll forget about it and see you next time. Again, happy Horror-ween. Copyright Chance Bartel of the Nostalgic Podblast.